Hello, and welcome to Healthy California podcast. My name is Linda Brown, and I am the host of Healthy California, where my goal is to help educate you on your daily choices so we all can become healthy. I believe you, your family, your neighbor, and your community are all looking for better ways and simple ways to return to being healthy. Many of you have health issues or have family that's going through tough times that seemingly have no answers. It's frustrating. There are questions about health, environment, foods, exercise, and lifestyle, and it can be all overwhelming. And who do you believe? And where's the science behind it? This podcast will unravel the mystery behind being unhealthy and talk about little things that we can do in our lives to make a positive change in our health from all angles. So to be healthy, we need to have physical health, mental health, environmental health, financial and social health, and of course, spiritual health. Let's answer some of these questions to get healthy. What good is just listening to a podcast? I will give you resources as well, ways to take steps and make positive changes in your life to becoming healthy. This is a journey, not an assignment, so be kind to yourself. Okay, welcome back. This is Linda Brown. I am your host of Healthy California and your physical therapist and functional nutritionist here in California. I want to take you back to 1992. We're walking through a grocery store or sitting in a health class, and you see a colorful triangle, the USDA food pyramid. Do you remember what was at the bottom of that pyramid, the base, the biggest slab of the triangle? Bread, cereal, rice, and pasta. They told us to eat 6 to 8 servings a day. So now we look back with what we know about inflammation, insulin resistance, joint health, chronic pain, mental health, sleep, and stress, and that advice almost seems dangerous now. Yet, many of us are still eating like it's 1992. And we do it without thinking about it because it's what we are conditioned to, and it's kind of our way of life to have lots of breads and cereals and pastas. But today we are going to dismantle that old pyramid. So we're going to discuss the new food pyramid that was released last week, January 2026. As a physical therapist, I need your tissues to heal. As a functional nutritionist, I need your inflammation down. We know that inflammation is the cause of all, if not most, chronic diseases. So the old food pyramid didn't serve us properly. The new food pyramid is put out by both the USDA and Health and Human Services. The USDA and HHS. The job of the USDA is to support and regulate the nation's food and agricultural system while promoting food security for all. They support farmers, oversee nutrition assistance programs like SNAP and WIC. They ensure the food safety of meat, poultry, egg products, manage forests and grasslands, and conduct research in all of that. The job of the HHS is to protect the health of Americans and provide essential human services, especially for vulnerable and underserved people. HHS focuses on public health, healthcare access, and health protection, not just agriculture and food products. So it makes sense that they are working together for this food pyramid, not just the USDA working on the food pyramid like it did for the one back in 1992. Today we're going to look at a structure that actually works for your biology, not for the agricultural lobbyists. So let's dive in. So why did the old food pyramid fail your body? To understand where we're going, we kind of have to look where we've been. Why did the model fail us? In 1992, the pyramid was heavily influenced by economics, agriculture, and health science. By telling Americans to base their diet on refined carbs, we spiked our collective blood sugar. However, in their defense, I'm not going to totally badmouth them because I think that even though there was a lot of money influence on this, we just know more now. We have a lot more research showing that having a diet high in carbs is not good. So we do know more now. From a functional nutrition standpoint, here's the problem. When you eat that many processed grains, you create a state of chronic inflammation. You spike your insulin, you store fat, and you disrupt your gut microbiome. So let's break each of these statements down. So now I'm going to put my physical therapy hat on. Patients come to me with chronic joint pain. increased medications, both for the disease and for the pain. Back 20 plus years ago when I became a physical therapist, people weren't in the same type of pain they are now, and they weren't on as many medications as they are now. So in the last 20 years, people are more medicated and have more pain. They have tendinitises that won't go away. Their recovery from surgery is slow. And if your diet is based on the bottom of that 1992 food pyramid, which includes inflammatory carbs, your body is constantly fighting a fire. Your immune system is on overdrive, trying to get this inflammation down. In addition, you can't repair like torn rotator cuffs or strained hamstrings efficiently if your blood is thick with glucose and inflammatory markers. You need to have proper nutrition to be able to heal properly. And then the government shifted in 2011, they shifted to MyPlate, which was better. It split the plate into quadrants. However, it still fell short in terms of quality. So it treated all proteins the same and all grains the same. In functional medicine, we know that factory farmed burger is not the same as a wild caught salmon, even if they both have protein. There was not necessarily a focus on quality of food. So what changed with this new pyramid? The base. So the pyramid has been flipped point side down. The grains are still at the bottom, but now the point is pointing down, the smallest part. So that means the grains are the least amount in your diet. While the protein, full fat dairy, healthy fats, fruits, vegetables are at the top of the pyramid. Now these aren't necessarily broken into quadrants either. They don't have lines delineating how much exactly you should have in your vegetable intake. It's just most of your diet should be towards your proteins, full fats, healthy fats, fruits, vegetables. That should be a majority of your diet. So the emphasis is on whole foods. And this kind of ends the war on saturated fats. If you have a whole food, you should be having unsaturated fats in that and healthy fats. The new protein recommendation also is 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. I'll do the math for you. The easiest way to think about it is half a gram to a full gram per pound of body weight. So if, let's say you weigh 200 pounds, half of that would be 100. So you'd be eating either 100 to 200 grams of protein in your diet. That's a lot of protein. That we're just not used to having that much protein. So think of half your body weight in grams of protein. Half your body weight in grams of protein. We also have full fat dairy is encouraged. The dairy industry is loving this, I'm sure. And up to 3 servings a day. So full fat dairy, not everyone can tolerate dairy. As we get older, we lose the enzymes for that. You need to pay attention to that as well. So dairy isn't for everyone, but if you're going to choose a dairy, choose the full fat dairy. This is a choice they made that I agree with. A lot of times there was research on dairy and the intolerance to dairy, and the research was on low-fat milk or non-fat milk and not full fat. And then that's where the intolerances came. There's more intolerance to non-fat and low fat than there is to full fat. And we actually need the fat, because remember, eating fat doesn't make you fat. The controversy is that a lot of fat can give you heart disease. That's not necessarily true, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I also want you to not be afraid of fat. And then the big change on here is ultra-processed foods and added sugars are discouraged. And they say discouraged, but I would just say just get off of the ultra-processed foods. That means anything packaged, anything that has ingredients in there that you just don't recognize. Because if it's on a shelf, that means it has a shelf life. If it has a shelf life, it means it has to have something preserving it to be there. So you want to stay away from that. Our body doesn't know what to do with preservatives, and then we end up fighting what we put into our body, and that's when we get inflamed. On a functional nutrition lens, when we look at protein, higher protein supports satiety. It makes you more full sooner. It supports muscle preservation. So the more protein you eat, your muscle won't deteriorate or waste away as fast. So it will preserve your muscle. Having more muscle on you will also regulate your blood sugar. And so eating protein will also regulate your blood sugar. because you're having more protein and not necessarily having the sugar in its place. But also, we need proteins in our body because that's what our immune system is made up of proteins. All our antibodies are proteins. So we need protein in our body. And then with our fats, our healthy fats, we have healthy fats because they have omegas. Omega-3s is an essential fatty acid. And they also play a role in our inflammatory pathways. So it decreases inflammation and it plays a role in our hormone balance. So we need omega-3s and we need to consume them because they're essential. When you minimize your grain, you're going to minimize that insulin resistance potential. Increased grains can lead to gut permeability or leaky gut. And then the MCAS sensitive clients also don't do well with grain many times. MCAS is mast cell activation syndrome. And if you have that, you know you have that. So that was from the functional nutrition lens. Let's look at this from a physical therapy lens. So a nutritional shift that supports recovery and tissue repair and growth is what this food pyramid does. It's shifting towards recovery, repair, and growth. It's really kind of shifting towards healing because that's what the body was meant to do. The body is meant to heal itself if you give it what it needs. So there's protein for collagen synthesis and muscle repair. There's fats for joint lubrication and cell integrity. There's reduced sugar, which means reduced systemic inflammation. Then you can move better. There's less inflammation in the body. Remember, the body doesn't need sugar, especially added sugar or alternative sugars or high fructose corn syrup. The body doesn't need any of that. It can get its sugar from fruits and vegetables, and it can also make its own blood glucose. The body can make its own blood glucose. So we don't need to add any more sugar to our diet. When I talk about lubrication, it's really, motion is lotion, but only when your tissues are healthy. So if your tissues are healthy, your body is going to be able to make and create the lubrication in your joints, in addition to being hydrated. In my opinion, there's a lot of good that came from turning this food pyramid upside down. Some of the criticisms are that there's still saturated fat on this food pyramid. And saturated fat, in my opinion, is not bad. Everything in moderation and everything in small doses. So I say that because if you were to choose butter, which is saturated fat, I would rather you choose butter than margarine. I would rather you choose butter than beef tallow. I'd rather you choose butter over lard. So that's a controversy. But again, you're only going to have butter minimally throughout the week, not that much. And then other concerns are the amount of red meat. Some people are anti-red meat. Some people think that red meat is going to cause cardiovascular disease. I think that everyone is different. So there are people that are vegans that do just fine on a vegan diet. And then there are people who are carnivore and do fine on a carnivore diet. And I have my opinions about that, but I'm never going to say that it's wrong, that it's right for everybody or it's wrong for everybody, because everybody's different. That's something that you really need to keep in mind. Let's talk about the food pyramid, what is on there that I have a problem with. And if you look at the fruits and vegetables, if you look at the vegetables, they have like canned peas and canned beans. I think they just put that on there as canned so that you can see that it's a pea or a bean, but don't get canned vegetables. Canned anything is still processed and it's still lined with BPA lining in the can. Just keep in mind that they mean peas and beans and not necessarily canned. So don't opt for the canned food. So that's all I'm going to say about that. And let's talk about hydration then. The missing part of this whole food pyramid is the hydration. If I had drawn this pyramid for you right now, the bottom line before you even get food is water. Water is very important. You can live for days and days without food, but you can't live for days and days without water. So water is the most important part. For a physical therapist, we need you to be hydrated because your connective tissue gets sticky, it gets stiff, it starts clicking and popping. You might experience chronic morning stiffness in your joints, clicking in your joints, a little bit of achiness in your joints. And consider water. Consider taking in water before you reach for a pain med or even before you start your stretching routine. Reach for the water first. On a nutritional note, the digestion requires water. So many things in your body require water. You can eat all the expensive organic kale in the world, but if you're dehydrated, you're not going to be able to break down the kale and you're not going to be able to absorb the nutrients. The formula for hydration is half your body weight in ounces of water. So again, if you're 200 pounds, then half your body weight would be 100, so you'd be taking in 100 ounces of water. If you drink like a seltzer water or a fruit juice, that would be included in your liquid intake. But again, you're not going to be drinking fruit juice because that's filled with sugar. So what are some actionable steps? I want you to prioritize your protein at every meal. Let's say you are to have 90 grams of protein. Well, then split it up. Have 30 grams in the morning, 30 grams for lunch, and 30 grams in the evening. I am excited to share something special with you. This January, I'm launching a 4-week program designed to support your momentum and help you step into 2026 with confidence, clarity, and tools that truly make a difference. You'll learn simple, sustainable lifestyle practices that you can carry with you for life. Practices that create real change without overwhelming you. In addition, I will be available on a weekly live group call with you to answer any questions, encourage you, and create a community of people just like you to start building healthy habits. If you feel called to join me, just click the link in the show notes or visit heal-throughfood.com to get started. I'd love to walk this next chapter with you. Now let's get back to the show. If you break it up like that, it's really not as bad as it sounds. And again, the formula for protein would be half your body weight in grams of protein. Half to full body weight. So again, if you're 200 pounds, half of that would be 100 grams of protein, 100 grams to 200 grams of protein in your diet. Half your body weight would be the minimum amount. And some of the things you can have are your eggs, your poultry, fish, beef, lamb, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese. I would want you to have fermented dairy, so the Greek yogurt and the cottage cheese would be fermented. Legumes. So legumes are the one thing that I mentioned that isn't an animal product. And if you pair your legumes with the grain, then you can get your full amino acid profile. So there are legumes and flax seeds and chia seeds. They all have good fats in them and some protein in them. So I want you to have good protein. It doesn't always have to be animal-based protein. So that was your first thing. Actionable step number 1, prioritize protein at every meal. And that also means that the first thing you grab should be a protein. If you're out to dinner, you shouldn't grab the bread first, grab the protein first. So number 2, if you eat dairy, switch to a full-fat dairy or fermented dairy. And that's if you don't have any sensitivities. Or if you have MCAS, then you can choose an A2 dairy or also fermented dairy. And then number 3, choose healthy fats. So avocado oil, olive oil, butter, ghee. I'm still not sold on the beef tallow. That's a lot of saturated fat. And again, saturated fat in small doses is fine. But now they're making these beef tallow chips and everything's in beef tallow. It's a big thing right now. And then people end up overeating it. So choose healthy fats. And if you cook with oil, cook with a avocado oil or olive oil to saute things. If you are cooking at a higher temperature, you can choose like a ghee. Ghee and coconut oil have a higher heat point. So I would choose those to cook with and not the seed oils like corn and soy oil or sunflower oil, safflower. Those are all seed oils and they're not really a healthy form of fat. And also healthy fat, you can choose a fatty fish like salmon, sardines. They have great omegas, which is an essential fatty acid. So that was number 3, choose a healthy fat. And then number 4, absolutely eliminate ultra-processed foods. So no chips, crackers, cereals, candies, pastries, sweet drinks. You can replace those. You can replace them with whole fruits and veggies, minimally processed dairy, whole cut meat. A lot of your snack type stuff can be fruits and vegetables and nuts. And then for grains, if you like grains, choose quinoa, choose wild rice, avoid white bread, or choose at least a whole grain sourdough. Avoid refined flour products, sugar cereals, bagels, muffins. And if you love bread, save that as a treat for your restaurant if you go out to eat. And when you go out to eat, make sure you eat your protein and your veggies first so that bread doesn't fill you up. And then you can use that bread to maybe soak up any sauces, but have your protein first. Number 6 would be your plate. Your plate should be divided. Half your plate should be fruits, veggies, and proteins. And then a quarter of it can be your fats. And then a quarter of it can be whole grains if you need it to be. Number 7, create a meal rhythm, a routine, or a habit. So let's say for breakfast, just to make sure you get your protein in, like maybe for breakfast you have your eggs, fruit, full-fat yogurt, saute some spinach into that, and that is a great breakfast. And just make a habit of that. Make a habit of getting out of grabbing that cereal box or reaching for the bagel or the English muffin. Those are all carbs. You don't need that many carbs. And then for lunch, protein bowl, a salad bowl. Try to get a big salad in as one of your big meals and put a protein in it and some fats. So avocado or nuts and seeds. It's very filling and it would be very, very healthy. And make that part of your routine. And then get into a routine of dinner, including a protein, meat, fish, lentils, chickpeas, whatever has good protein that you can tolerate. Roasted vegetables, nuts, berries, seeds. There's great recipes out there these days, especially for farm to fork type of good quality food that's right in your location. And then number 8, audit your pantry. Remove those sugar cereals. Remove the chips, crackers. When you go shopping, don't even buy that. Remove the sweetened beverages, your low-fat dairies, your seed oils. Get rid of all of it. And then again, add your fermented dairy. If you can do dairy, add your fermented dairy, like yogurts and cottage cheeses. And then number 9, real food first. I like to say, if God didn't make it, I'm not eating it. So always choose real food first. So I'm going to go over these actionable steps again. Prioritize protein, switch to full fat dairy if you eat dairy, choose healthy fats, absolutely no processed foods. For grains, choose wild rice and quinoa. Half your plate should be proteins and vegetables, and the other half can be, a quarter of it can be fats and a quarter of it can be grains. Then create a meal rhythm for each of your meals, audit your pantry, and then the last is real food first. So this is how we decrease inflammation and especially chronic disease. And I think that this food pyramid is going to get us out of that habit of eating things that bring us to chronic disease. And I think that our chronic disease epidemic is going to minimize on this new food pyramid if we just learn how to incorporate this food pyramid into our day. Because inflammation is a big thing. Inflammation is hidden in names like cardiovascular disease, diabetes, hypertension. That's all inflammation. Those are all inflammatory chronic diseases. That's why I say inflammation is the cause of most chronic diseases. I'm talking about cardiovascular disease, diabetes, hypertension, and many more. That's just a few of the main ones. And it's all caused by inflammation. So we decrease inflammation, and this can support you in your physical therapy. This can support you in your healing process. If we feed the body what it needs, it's going to heal. But it doesn't heal on Cheetos. You can't heal your body on Cheetos or manufactured food. So if you're still eating like it's 1992, let's leave that in the past, along with the bad fashion. Let's adopt a functional, resilient approach to eating in 2026, and let this be your future. So I'm going to read a scripture to you, because I like to do that at the end of every one of my podcasts. And I might have read this to you before because it's one of my favorites, actually. It's kind of in line with how I live and how I eat and breathe. And it's from 1 Corinthians 10:31. And it says, "So whether you eat, drink, or whatever you do, do it all to the glory of God." And I like that one because, we think about food as something that replenishes us. It's part of our culture. It's part of our family gatherings. We spend our whole day around food. But it really should be when we eat and drink or whatever we do, we really need to step back and realize that this is a blessing to us. Food is a blessing. So if we put good things in our body and bless our body with good things, our body will last longer. And that's all to the glory of God. Put good things in your body and take good care of your body, because it really is a blessing. And we live in a country that we are blessed with having the ability to have access to good food. And if we don't have access, we have programs that we can access good food. If you don't know how to get access to good food, you can listen to, I think it's my first or second podcast, because I think that access to good food is so important. I made it one of my first podcasts. So go back and listen to that. There's programs where you can get good, healthy food if you don't have access to it. That's all I'm going to say about that. And I'm Linda Brown, and I thank you so much for listening to my podcast. And I hope you eat well, you move well, and you stay healthy, California. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you learned something new. Health care and treatment should focus on being proactive and preventative, emphasizing the importance of addressing the root cause of a disease or illness. While the U.S. has an excellent trauma medicine system, helping patients when problems arise, our goals should be to prevent disease before they happen. That's why this podcast is so important to me. If you're needing further guidance or have questions on a particular matter, you can find my contact information in the show notes, where you can set up a 15-minute consultation. I also recommend you adding a functional nutritionist, a functional medicine practitioner, and a physical therapist to your healthcare team. This podcast reflects my personal opinions based on extensive research and education. It is not intended for medical diagnosis or treatment and should never replace the advice from your doctor or other healthcare professionals. To continue providing this free information, I rely on your support. Follow, subscribe, like, and share this podcast with your family and friends, or on social media. Don't forget to turn on your notifications to stay updated whenever I have a new episode released. Educating you and empowering you to take back your health is my ultimate goal. By gathering knowledge and implementing small but impactful changes, you can reclaim your well-being. This is a journey, not a quick fix, so be kind to yourself, and I'll be there to help. You got this.